What's up, brother?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I know we've been wanting to kind of do this for a while, where we were able to do YouTube and the audio for the podcast
Right.
at the same time. The interesting thing is neither one of us are technologically sound at anything. So I know there's a way that I could pull the audio only from this, but since I'm not technical enough to do it, we're doing it the messed up way we're doing it.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
So forgive me because I don't know what I'm doing.
And we're basically in a storage closet. So.
Kinda, yeah. But just so you know, this will be a YouTube series. It's going to come to you once a week, as well as the audio, the podcast version, just the audio, and it'll be available on Spotify, Amazon, iTunes. Well, it is available.
Yes.
And it's brought to you by RHTC for all of your industrial construction, crane operator training, rigging, inspection, testing, consulting. These are the guys, I'm telling you, top notch. And I mean, best company I've ever used in the country. Having been in the business, we have been for a long time.
Yep.
There's not any better than what these guys are. So check them out for crane, rigging, training, CCO supporters. RHTC 318-330-9000, rhtcinc.com. And somewhere in this video, I'm going to have the links at the bottom to YouTube and TikTok. Yeah. I know you were excited about that.
Yeah, apparently we're doing TikTok now.
We have cups too. So you were excited about the TikTok. Okay. All right. So this series is something we call Terror on the Clock. And if you follow us, there's going to be like 2 or 3 different themes. You're going to get this, where we talk about, unfortunately, workplace, industrial accidents, near misses, situations like that. And then there will be a very professional side, where about once a month, we do little clips of you training or me training or Jeff or CG or whoever else.
Correct.
And you're going to look at that and you're going to go, look at the professional side. Look at these guys.
Yeah, they're not a bunch of idiots.
Yeah. And then you've got those 2 guys that people are going to get to know, Kevo and Bobo.
Right.
And they're going to get to know Kevo and Bobo.
And
Bobo's good.
And possibly Bobo's cousin Cornbread.
Cornbread did say he was coming back to work. Yeah. Y'all are going to enjoy that, I'm telling you. So look forward to it. So today's episode of Terror on the Clock. So as we started this about a month and a half, 2 months ago, testing it, and legitimately last night, Ron and I do research, and we've got 10 or 12 of these accidents kind of on hand ready to talk about. And a guy last night that I was doing another podcast something with, he said, just the other day, someone had told him about a crane accident that happened years ago.
Okay.
And he said, man, I would love for y'all to cover it on your series, Terror on the Clock.
Right.
And I was like, absolutely, tell me what it was. And he said, they called it Big Blue.
Oh, yes, the Big Blue.
So I said, this is interesting. He pointed me to an article that I thought was really cool.
Okay.
Because it come from an iron worker who was on site that day.
Okay.
And I thought this was an interesting perspective coming from somebody that on site was around and feeling all these things and all that.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting.
Right.
Okay. So we know, being in the crane industry, we know about Big Blue. It was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Correct.
Talk a little bit about the background.
Normally, the way this works is that you tell me a story.
That's right.
That I know nothing about.
Nothing.
All right. I know about Big Blue.
Right. So today's a little different. You didn't know I was going to talk about
this. No,
I
had no idea. I don't know the topic. I don't know what we're discussing.
You always come in blind.
Yeah. So I have done a little research on Big Blue. Not a lot. But we actually use the Big Blue incident in some of our training stuff.
We do. And it's unfortunate, but you and I've said before in past stuff that positive things come from tragedy.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, Big Blue is what jump-started the whole training industry for the most part over the last 30 years.
You just took the words out of my mouth. That's exactly where I was going with that. But and I hate that. First off, I mean, there were 3 men tragically killed, but it did the families of those men can know that from that came strict guidelines, laws. I don't want to say suggestions, but hey, y'all better start doing this.
Yeah. You know, as OSHA says, must or shall.
Must or shall. That's right. So
it also, you know, whether we like some of the rules that have come out of that,
right?
But you know, you would want to think that in the grand scheme of things, they're here for us.
No, that's 100% right.
Make sure that we can go home at night.
That's 100% right. So we're coming up on the 24th or 25th anniversary of Big Blue. Okay, so so for those who don't know, Big Blue was it had 567 foot of boom,
monster crane,
and it had a 450 ton load on it. Okay. So they were building Miller Park in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Correct.
Which is where the Brewers play. Okay. So it was an interesting input. There was a guy, an ironworker there named Bob. All right. Now, Bob, this guy that wrote this article, he ran into Bob at, of all places, Dick's Bar and Grill. I'm not sure if it was Dick's Last Stand.
I was going to say, isn't that the place that treats you like an a-hole?
Right. and I don't know if it was that or not. Okay. But Bob was an iron worker, and he told the guy that wrote the article, he said, you know, we're going to catch up on this. And the guy that wrote this article, by the way, is Dan Lyskett. Okay.
Okay.
So he said, we're going to catch up, and I want to tell you my version of this. So the accident delayed the opening of the stadium, obviously, quite a bit. So more importantly, it took the lives of 3 iron workers, which was Jeffrey A. Wishner, who was 40 years old, William DeGrave, 39 years old, and Jerome Starr, who was 52 years old. So God, may they rest in peace. And their lives did not go unnoticed. You know, it has changed things. You're right. So a couple of years after the tragedy, this guy runs into Bob, and he said, hey, I want to catch up with you about what I heard, or my version from where I was that day. So Bob's iron worker career dates back to 1977. So this guy was an iron worker. I was a year old.
For 22 years before the accident.
Yeah, and I was a year old when this guy started, hanging iron and working around. He's probably forgot more about iron work than I'll ever know.
Well, I wasn't even born yet. So
right, yeah.
I was still hot rodding around the universe.
So you were a few years later. But so during his apprenticeship, he worked on some familiar landmarks in the Twin Cities areas, including the Allen S. King Power Plant, which is in Bayport, Minnesota, and City Center Building in downtown Minneapolis. Okay. Over the next 2 decades, Bob worked for a number of different outfits across the Midwest, working on building prisons, refineries, jails, other institutional projects. And in the mid-'80s, Bob was working on Gauscher Plaza, which is now Cray Plaza in downtown St. Paul, when another iron worker on the job dropped his hard hat onto safety netting above the atrium. The worker chose a rather unorthodox method to retrieve the helmet. He dove onto the safety netting.
Okay.
That's a bold
strategy, Cotton.
That's exactly. I was good, but I love when you say that's what I'll let you say. So very bold strategy. So that was Bill DeGrave. From that day on, we all called him Diver. Yeah. Right? Instead of going down and getting his hard hat, the guy done.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy. Like, there ain't no way I'd have done that.
Well, that's one way to make sure that your safety net's going to work.
But let's just be honest. I mean, imagine the cojones to look down and go, you know what?
That safety net's last resort.
Hold up, guys. Let me show y'all something. Yeah. Like, that's yeah. So he's been around just guys that have been in the industry for years. And I know this sounds crazy, but we're talking about guys that are literally known nationally to other people they haven't met, not for what they did in a TV show or a movie or a song, but literally iron workers and that other iron workers know.
Correct. Yes.
That's crazy
to
think. So Bob worked on...
And this is 80s, you said?
Yeah. This
right, so it was way before TikTok. So it's not like a TikTok construction working star.
No, he didn't do it.
It's just a guy that jumped off the...
So that's another good point. He didn't do it so he could get a bunch of likes.
Yeah, he just did it to get his hard hat.
He's just kind of crazy in a good way, I guess.
Yeah, because back in the 80s, hard hats were expensive.
So it wasn't unusual for Bob and Diver to end up working together at Miller Park.
Okay.
Okay. So Jeffrey Wishner was also another familiar face. Bob saw guys like that around the job all the time. Now, Jeffrey Wishner is one of unfortunately, one of the men that passed away. You get to know each other, and you know that. There's like this, and jump in here, obviously, it's a brotherhood.
It is. It's a brotherhood.
Amongst crane, rigging, operators.
Whether or not, especially people, in regions, and I'm not talking about just in cities, but regions, you travel.
Southeast United States.
Southeast, Midwest, whatever. Like, people all throughout. Like, hey, man, I need a couple of welders, or I need a couple of pipe fitters, or I need a couple of iron workers. I got a couple of buddies that I can call.
Yeah. And and the interesting thing, they all do have nicknames. Yeah. They have nicknames like Diver, Rooster, Flea,
Cornbread.
And those are usually always the best guys.
There you go.
So the Miller Park project wasn't going smoothly. There were scheduling issues, delays, disputes. Mitsubishi Heavy Industries of America was in charge of installing the retractable roof. Okay. Which it was comprised of extremely large panels. And I'm not being technical.
Yeah, no,
it was just extremely large panels.
Like it was like 400 tons?
Yeah, 450 tons. Yeah. Yes, the panel.
Yeah, just that section.
And it's important. I'm glad you said that. It's a billboard, like a large billboard size section of roof that had enough steel making it up that it was 450 tons.
Yeah. So here's the deal.
That's 900,000
yes,
pounds.
Correct. Nearly 1 million pounds.
Right.
So, and also here, I'm going to make him do this in the comment section or wherever.
Yes.
If you can, put the link to the YouTube Big Blue video.
100%. I will be the first comment. Yeah. I'm learning how to do all this, so bear with us. But I'm glad you said that. So on the day of the fatal lift, high winds and a late decision to install some air change equipment set the time for the lift from the morning to the late afternoon. Okay. So that morning, Bob was in the shack having coffee when Jeff asked if I could be the radio signal person, Bob said. Bob would be standing on Big Blue itself near where the boom is attached. He would be using 3 radios in all, including one that kept him in contact with Diver, who along with Wishner and Starr would be suspended several hundred feet above the ground in the man basket, which would be held aloft by a separate crane operated by a gentleman named Joseph Edwards.
And if you've ever seen the video, you know what happens to that man basket.
Yeah. The 3 would help guide the panel into place. The panel to be lifted on July 14, 1999 was the largest panel that they had to lift. Weighing at about 450 tons and approximately the size of a large billboard, 120 feet wide, 76 feet high. Despite some reports of winds that exceed 20 miles per hour, maximum the crane manufacturer even considered safe, Mitsubishi supervisors ordered the lift to be proceeded. The pick is coming across near where the man basket is suspended, Bob said, and at 5:12 that afternoon. And that's a unique insight, because when I watched that video, and I've watched it hundreds of times.
Correct.
I never one time considered what time of the day it was. I don't know why.
For some reason, I always thought, hey, we're going to make the big pick first thing in the morning.
Yes. I would have 100%, if you would have said, what time do you think it was? I would have said 9 o'clock.
Yep, at the latest.
I don't know why. But 5:12 in the evening, you're going up with the biggest roof section possible.
5:12. So that means that
you
it's not like they just set it down. They don't just set it down.
Right. I don't know what goes into securing that section. But if it gets delayed terribly, this is going to go into dark or longer. I don't.
Or we're going to have to pick it back up and set it, wait, do it again in the morning.
Right. You set it back down. I mean, this is not right. I'm thinking the same thing. So at 5:12 that afternoon, all hell broke loose. Court records summarize hell as this way. The basic tragic facts can be stated simply. 3 iron workers, Jeffrey, William, and Jerome, fell to their deaths. They're working at Miller Park Stadium, the future home of the Brewers, Milwaukee's Major League Baseball team. The three men were in a basket held by a crane, preparing to bolt down a section of Miller Park's retractable roof that was being hoisted into place by a large Big Blue crane. As Big Blue moved the enormous piece of roof into place, Big Blue collapsed. Big Blue's boom hit the crane, holding the men in the man basket, personnel basket, and they fell to their deaths. Now, that's the court records.
Correct.
Here's how Bob summarizes hell. I felt the kingpin move on the turntable. And you could just see everything start shaking, Bob said. Joe is trying to catch them out of the way. He was the other crane operator. When that kingpin snapped, it was like a bomb went off. I said to Diver, this thing is going over. He said, yeah, I know, Bob. And that's the last words he ever said. Mm. When Big Blue went over, it tossed the crane operator out of the operator's cab window. Bob, restrained by a lanyard attached to the crane, was dragged around and nearly crushed by falling debris.
God, dog.
How many times we've watched this video, how many times we've talked about this. The detail in that I had no idea.
In the video, you can't see Bob.
No. And so I had no idea, you had no idea, that by safety harness, somebody is attached to something that all of a sudden they cannot get unattached from and get out of the way.
I've watched this, like I said, I watch this video once a month.
Yeah.
It's in our training program.
I've watched more.
I've watched it at least once a month for the past 10 years.
Yes.
And I've never once known about Bob.
That's why I thought, I know when I bring this up, so many people may go, oh, we've heard Big Blue. Brother, I've never heard Bob's version of this.
No.
This is insane. So, I got into the stadium in time to watch them cover up the guys in the basket. He walked around the site in a daze for some time and eventually accepted a police escort through a throng of media to his vehicle to just leave the site. Despite a back injury, he had went on searching for his friends who were buried beneath twisted pieces of steel. It was the worst day of my life, Bob said. Bob was able to attend the funerals for Diver and Wishner. He was a witness in a civil trial that eventually saw a Milwaukee County jury find Mitsubishi 97% liable for the deaths. When appeals and settlements were finished, each widow received about $30 million. Mm-hmm. Bob and three other iron workers who witnessed the collapse and have suffered post-traumatic stress disorder reached an out-of-court settlement in a separate suit. In Bob's view, those proceedings did not produce justice.
No.
There should have been criminal charges brought for the people in charge of the lift that day. It was an accident, yes, but it was a travesty. I think.
And you know, we've always heard, well, for however many years this has been now, we've heard stories about the crane operator should have done this, and right. the supervisor should have done this, and mm-hmm. you know, it all boils down to what we talked about pretty much every week. It's pressure to get things accomplished.
What it can cause, the just straight lack of judgment that can be involved mm-hmm. because somebody's telling you, "Hey, you got to hurry. You've got to hurry."
I mean, it's all about the money, man.
That's exactly right. And I say in class sometimes, I know obviously you set mine, sometimes I set yours. I say urgency with a purpose. I understand urgency with a purpose. I understand when you're like, hey, we've only got a few minutes of daylight. We got to get, know, and you working at a faster pace. Like, I get that happens.
Yeah.
But when you're going up with 450 tons of steel.
That's not something that you wait till the end of the day to do.
And then you have to put perspective, right? It doesn't take 450 tons of steel to make a crane collapse.
No,
you can break that down into a 50-ton lifting 8,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And if the situation's right, the same thing's going to happen.
The weather, ground conditions, I've seen a 50-ton crane buckle because of 20-mile-an-hour winds.
Right. So, how insane is that? One thing was Bob, he aggravated his back injury. Obviously he was thrown around, he was off work. He also had ongoing issues with what he called, and I can only imagine this, survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
I could see how that would be something that would just haunt him. Bob has visited Miller Park only a couple times, paying his respects to the memorial statue.
I was going to say, there's a statue right out front, if I'm not mistaken.
Bronze images of his fallen co-workers, and finding his name among the nearly 5,000 listed on the workers' wall. On the 17th anniversary, Bob was seeing his doctor for the ongoing issues that he got when he was flung off the thing.
17 years later.
And Bob said on that day, he when this article was written, he said, I think I'll just lay low. I'll probably reminisce some and think about my buddies and their wives and their children. I hope people think a little bit about iron workers and what others do, the others who do this work, so other people can go out and enjoy themselves. You see a baseball park and you think, baseball, America's pastime, tradition, family, fun. But what went into making that park what it is?
Well,
some people will never know.
And you think about the people that are making how much money is being made on that baseball field.
Yeah.
And it's not just that field, but any field that's built.
Right.
People don't realize the toll it takes on the people that built that.
That's exactly right. The family, the children. I mean, one of the wives said if they were ever on one of the wives of the three men that passed said, if ever there was an accident at the site, I promise you, I'm going to call you immediately.
Yeah.
So you know it's not me.
Yeah.
And she said her son, it's during summer, her son's watching TV and something comes on the screen about an accident. And she's like, Mommy, we need to call Daddy because there was an accident at the baseball stadium. And she said, I stood there a second and realized he hadn't called me.
He hadn't called.
This is not good. And sure enough, I think the point of this, though, is not to relive this accident that brought forth all these changes. But I think it's to remind ourselves that no matter who it is, it could be the President of the United States, it could be the Pope, it could be, Elvis Presley himself coming up from the dead going, Kevo, I need y'all to hurry. Sometimes it's okay to go, hey, let's stop. Everybody stop.
Pump your brakes a minute.
Yes.
Let's take a second.
Come on, Cotton, as you say sometimes. Just slow down.
Yeah.
And you're talking about high winds. Men shouldn't have been up in that basket to begin with. But we all know working class men are pressured to do things.
Exactly. And like I said, there's no reason that they should have been in that man basket. And that's one thing you don't think about. Everybody talks about shouldn't have been operating that crane and making that lift with the winds that were going on. There's no reason that those guys should have been in that man basket with those winds.
Absolutely
because
not.
I've been in a man basket 100 times. And I can promise you this.
20-mile-an-hour winds?
There ain't no way.
We're talking about continuous.
Yeah. Find somebody else.
That's right. So yeah, they should never have been put in that situation. And I hear so many people a lot of times say, well, they shouldn't have got up there. And I get all that.
Yeah.
I get that. But when you work for a living,
that's their job.
Sometimes you don't want to do things that you've got higher ups, engineers, people telling you, do this or we'll find someone else.
Yeah. Well,
sometimes you don't have that luxury to say no.
No, I understand. It's just.
I mean, obviously you do, but some people.
But still, I mean, everybody has higher ups, but at the same time, those higher ups need to start to realize that, and you're actually seeing more, at least on our end, you're seeing more of the higher ups coming through the training classes.
Yeah, I've noticed that myself.
Just to get an idea of what it entails.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's very important to say that. I think everybody needs to. I think you need to sit in. You need to put yourself in your employee situation and then remember that. Don't go out to the next job because you're delayed.
Yeah.
You know.
Because I'll tell you this, man. Times where you show up, take a nap during training class, get your card, and going about your business, like those days are pretty much over with.
I'm actually glad you said that too, because I know we're adamant about, hey guys, you know, you're a grown man, you can do what you want to do, but we're not gonna sit here and let you snore and sleep.
Yeah.
Because we're truly, this is what we're trying to prevent.
Yeah.
I know you and I both are the companies that we work for, people that it's trying to prevent every hazard we can humanly prevent.
That's it.
And the only way to do it is communicate, go through training, continuing education. And sometimes you have to pull from tragedy.
That's it. You're exactly right.
One of those.
And like I said, this was the tragedy that pretty much jump started.
You're right.
Everything that we have to deal with nowadays.
And to hear from Bob's perspective, I've never heard the story.
You watch the video, and like I said, he'll post a link on the.
Yeah. So when the guy told me, oh, it's about an iron worker who was there, I just, not gonna lie, I thought to myself, well, it's somebody that just said, hey, I'm over here and I heard it happen.
Yeah. It wasn't the guy that was sitting on the crane.
No, I mean, God Almighty, man. Like Bob is one of those human beings that I would love to just walk up to and shake his hand.
Yeah.
Bob, I don't want you to have to relive anything, but man, you're a badass.
No, you're right.
Bob's a badass.
You're right.
So anyway, I'm Kevo. That's Ryan. Terror on the Clock's been sponsored about this good company here, RHTC. And you want to do your Vanna White? That's not bad. That's not bad. Next time.
She's had more practice.
Tell you what we'll do. All right, if we get this video right here, because it's our first one, if we get it to 500 views, you got to do that in just a bikini top. Not, you can have jeans on, but you got to wear the bikini top. 600 views.
Yeah.
Done.
Why not?
Come on, guys. Help me get that.
I've been naked before. It's fine.
Yeah, right. It's true. But anyway, guys, I hope if anything, what we were able to do was share some tragedy and maybe give some insight to maybe things need to slow down and take care of each other. Remember the guy next to you, even if you're the boss, you're the man in charge, they still have families and people that want to go home.
Exactly right.
All right. On behalf of our sponsor, RHTC, myself, Ryan, this has been Terror on the Clock. Bobo and Kevo will be back for video next week, plus maybe cornbread.
Cornbread, hopefully, if he's around.
It'll be interesting.
Also, possibly tomorrow.
Yeah.
We may have something special. So.
Yes. RHTCinc.com on Facebook at RHTCinc.
So
go like the page. Please.
Go check it out tomorrow morning.
We got something cool happening.
Yeah. So.
All right. Appreciate it, brother. Love you.
All right. Take care,
and we'll be back next week for an all-new episode.
Epi.
What did I just say?
I
what happened?
I don't know.
An all-new episode of Terror on the Clock. Much love. Stay safe. Please, guys. Godspeed.
I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't just about to piss my pants.